You're sitting on your couch at 11 p.m. and your phone is completely dark. No notifications, no unread messages, no one checking in on you. And the strange part isn't that you're physically alone in the room. The strange part is how normal and familiar this silence has started to feel. You've definitely met this person before in your own life. The person who sits in silence not because they want to, but because reaching out feels heavier than staying quiet and safe. Lonely people don't always look lonely from the outside looking in.
Sometimes they're the ones laughing the loudest at a crowded party. Sometimes they're the ones who never miss a single day of work. Sometimes they're the ones who seem perfectly fine to everyone around them. But here's the truth that most people never say out loud. Fine is a performance. And every single performance costs energy that lonely people are already running out of. Most people won't admit which side of this equation they're really on. The person who's deeply lonely but has learned never to say it, or the person who's watched someone they love slowly disappear into their own loneliness.
You already know exactly which friend this is in your own life. The one who stopped texting first without ever explaining why. The one who started saying, "I'm fine," like a reflex that requires no thought. The one who's still technically there, but somehow further away than they've ever been before. Here's what most people get completely wrong about the psychology of loneliness. They think it's simply about the number of people in your life at any given moment. That's not the real psychology of loneliness at all. The psychology of loneliness is actually about something called perceived social isolation.
Psychologist John Cacioppo called this the critical difference between objective isolation and felt isolation. You can be legally married to someone and still feel profoundly lonely every single day. You can have hundreds of followers on social media and still feel completely invisible. You can be standing in a crowded room full of people who know your name and still feel alone. And here's the painful part that most lonely people never admit out loud. If you've done this to yourself, if you've withdrawn and blamed everyone else, you already know how this story ends.
So let me ask you directly, what actually happens inside a lonely person's brain over time? Let's walk through the psychological mechanism step by painful step. Number 1, the lonely person's brain enters what psychologists call threat detection mode. Loneliness isn't just a sad emotion that passes like clouds in the sky. To your ancient survival-focused brain, loneliness is interpreted as active danger. Cacioppo's groundbreaking research at the University of Chicago found that perceived social isolation activates the same exact neural circuits as physical pain. Your anterior cingulate cortex, the same brain region that registers a burn or a deep cut, lights up brightly when you feel socially excluded or rejected. Your brain literally does not distinguish between the pain of hunger and the pain of loneliness. Both signals are interpreted as survival threats that require immediate attention. Both signals mean that something essential is missing from your life right now. Something you genuinely need to live and function as a healthy human being. Number 2, lonely people start hypervigilantly scanning for signs of rejection everywhere. This is where the painful psychological spiral truly begins, without warning. Once your brain detects a potential social threat, it automatically starts looking for more evidence to confirm that threat. You walk into a room and your brain automatically scans every face for danger. Who looked away from you first without saying hello back? Who didn't say hello at all or seemed cold and distant? Who might be whispering about you or secretly disliking your presence? You replay conversations for hours, looking for hidden meaning that probably isn't there. You interpret neutral facial expressions as hostile or dismissive when they're not. You assume that silence from someone means dislike rather than distraction or exhaustion. Psychologists call this painful pattern hypervigilance to social threat in everyday life.
And here's the cruelest part of the entire mechanism. It technically works, because you will always find exactly what you're anxiously looking for in social situations. Some of you just felt the exact moment you started doing this to yourself. Number 3, lonely people withdraw before other people can reject them first. This psychological defense mechanism is called defensive exclusion in the research literature. John Bowlby identified this mechanism decades ago in his attachment theory research with children. The twisted logic is painfully simple. If you leave first, you can never be abandoned again. Lonely people stop reaching out first to anyone in their lives. They stop suggesting plans because they assume the answer will be no. They stop saying, "I miss you," because that would require admitting vulnerability. Not because they don't care about the people they're slowly drifting away from, because caring has started to physically hurt more than the silence does. That's the hidden trade that no one talks about in self-help books. Safety from potential rejection, paid for with real human connection. You're either the person who relates to this painful pattern in yourself,
Or you're the person who's been hurt by someone who did this to you. Number 4, the behavioral feedback loop locks in and becomes automatic. Psychologist Albert Bandura studied this and called it reciprocal determinism in his research. Your behavior changes your environment around you in real time, and your changed environment changes you back without you even noticing. So let me show you what that looks like for lonely people specifically. You withdraw from social situations, so people stop inviting you to things. You assume they never liked you anyway, so the withdrawal feels justified. You withdraw even more deeply the next time someone reaches out. People stop calling because they think you don't want to hear from them. You feel completely confirmed in your belief that no one actually cares, and every single cycle makes the next cycle easier to repeat. Because loneliness is a learned habit long before it becomes a fixed identity. Most people never get past this part of the psychological loop. Number 5, lonely people consistently overestimate the true costs of social interaction. Research from UCLA's Social Cognitive Neuroscience Lab found this pattern repeatedly. They think a simple text will annoy the person receiving it. They think an invitation to hang out will burden someone else's day. They think their very presence in a room requires permission from others. This isn't laziness or low effort from the lonely person at all. This is a cognitive distortion that feels completely real to them. The lonely brain calculates rejection as more likely than it actually is in reality. And calculation without action becomes a prediction that never gets tested against reality. If you've never admitted this painful pattern out loud, now is the moment to recognize it. Number 6, they stop expecting warmth or kindness from other people entirely. Harvard psychologist Daniel Gilbert studied how humans forecast their own emotional experiences. Lonely people don't just feel bad about their current social situation. They stop believing that anything positive could ever feel good again. They expect coldness, disinterest, and eventually to be completely forgotten by everyone. And here's the dangerous part. Those expectations quietly become their reality. Because when you expect someone to let you down, you act noticeably different toward them. You're less warm, less open, and less like your real, authentic self. And people naturally respond to that guarded version of you instead. The version who already decided they don't care before giving them a chance. A 2018 study from UC Berkeley found that lonely people's conversation partners enjoyed the interaction less. Not because the lonely person was unlikable or boring to talk to, because the lonely person's expectation of rejection made them less engaged, less responsive, and less warm. The expectation completely created the negative outcome all by itself, and the lonely person never even knew they were the one who caused it. Most people miss that part entirely when they think about loneliness. Loneliness isn't really about what other people do to you or don't do for you. Loneliness is about what you slowly start doing to yourself over months and years.
So which version of you showed up today when no one was watching? The one who waits to be seen by someone else first? Or the one who's finally tired of waiting for permission to exist? Seriously, answer in the comments.